Can you share one concrete example of a change that you have noticed in English language testing? Top institutions really looking for today in international applicants beyond just scores and grades?
That's a difficult question because a lot of the universities like to keep their admission academic index and the black box, a black box. So when things change, does it throw you off or are you able to adapt? Are you able to be resilient? And it's an overused word, but it is really critical.
Ethical AI, sustainability, and climate action. How can Indian students align their college applications and subject choices to these future forward global priorities?
You've picked a big one. It's a really big one. Sustainability and AI. And let's just throw design in, and we've got pretty much the whole world covered.
The whole world of it. AI, sustainability, climate action, design thinking, all of it together in one umbrella. Hi, I am Sashwati Sarkar, and you are watching The Times of India. Today, we unpack the new realities of studying abroad, beyond glossy rankings and Ivy League dreams. Are Indian students finally venturing beyond the US and UK? Can choosing a budget-friendly university still build a powerful global career story? What's the real cost of those free European degrees? And as ethical AI, climate action, and sustainability go mainstream, how should Indian students rethink their applications and academic paths? Joining us today for this discussion is Ambika Kaul, head of the College Access Program at DPS Society, a global advisor and a voice on the TOEFL board with deep insights into international education trends. Welcome to the show, Ambika. Ambika, you work with thousands of students, helping them explore higher education in over 20 countries. What are some of the lesser known study abroad destinations that are gaining traction among Indian students of late?
Thanks for that question, Shashwati. I'd like to start by saying the traditional destinations remain popular, the big four. But countries like Germany, France, Netherlands, Ireland, South Korea, and New Zealand seem to be now gaining traction. And they're becoming increasingly attractive for varied reasons.
Right.
For example, Germany has a no fee public university system as long as you speak a certain level of proficiency in German. And they have strong STEM programs. So for cost conscious students, that seems to be a real attractive option. For those who want tech focused curricula, they want post work permits. Ireland seems to be an English taught program which has strong appeal. South Korea, if you're looking for cutting edge digital gaming, innovation, marketing, South Korea also has generous scholarships. So we've seen a move at the College Access Program. Shashwati, I support nearly 1 lakh students across 110 cities in India. And my program, which is under the aegis of the DPS Society, we've seen in the last year nearly a 34% surge in the number of requests for training, for access pathways, and for direct interaction. So it's been interesting. And as recently as last week, on the 14th of May, we conducted a training for our school counselors and foreign language teachers. And we did a tailored workshop to clarify the pathways, the language requirements, and going as far as cultural integration. So we even talked about cultural competence.
Ambika, in the US, there are cities like Tucson, uh, you know, that offer low cost of living but less name brand cachet. How can students build a compelling narrative around attending affordable universities like the University of Arizona when submitting to global or graduate programs later?
Okay, that's an interesting question. University of Arizona has set up a team now in India, which is fairly active the last 2 years. I think my friends Salil and Sahil are our contacts there. So you have so we're using, I'm assuming we're using Tucson as an example. Um, First, I would step back and say, deliberate, frame your narrative as a deliberate choice, right? It's a global
Right.
perspective. You're trying to show intentionality. You're trying to show outcomes. So the first thing is not that, hey, I'm going to an affordable university. You're saying someplace like Arizona, which has great solar energy, they've got a great astronomy program, the engineering is strong. So here are a few things you could do. Potentially talk about research and opportunities. Potentially talk about leadership impact that you could do in a smaller research focused university. And lastly, you have to highlight how these experiences align with your long term goals. So, if I'm working on a career counseling program, I should have a broader arc that I can talk to. And this is one step in the various steps that I need to take. I would also talk about your ability to say I'm adaptable. So let's say you don't get into an NYU or a New York or a California, Chicago based university. You still want to talk about how regional exposure can enrich your global perspective. And these traits are really valued by both employers and graduate programs. So I don't see any problem in affordable universities being a strong stepping stone.
Right. That's great to hear that it won't play one down.
Not at all.
So, considering Europe's no-fee public universities, especially Germany, you were referring to earlier, what are the often overlooked costs? Overlooked costs, like no fee is fine, but there are other costs as well, which students often overlook, right?
Right. Uh, I like the curation of questions. It's really covering everything a parent needs to know. And I wouldn't just say it's students, Shashwati, because we are dealing with, let's say, in my case, undergrad students primarily, and parents are a large part of the conversation. Um, so, first, I think people underestimate transportation, winter clothing, administrative costs. You have health insurance. Let's say it's 100 to 200. In Germany, I think it's 100 or 120 euros a month. So it adds up to 1300, 1400 euros a month. You might need residency permits. You might need language certifications because in some of the European countries, you're not learning in English. So it adds up. And then there's a cost differential. So if I'm living in a Munich or an Amsterdam versus a Leipzig, there will be a cost differential. It can be up to as much as maybe 800 or 900 euros. The same with the UK. So if I'm living in London versus if I'm living in Loughborough, there's going to be a substantial living cost difference. We've addressed some of this with a parent focused workshop series. So we talk about financial planning. It's literally called Financing Your Child's Education. And we deal with these discrepancies in understanding. So um, it's not a matter of lack of information. It is a matter of lack of conversation. The other thing people don't understand potentially is visa and the number of times kids want to fly back. So, I mean, I think you and I are in the same age group. So, way back when my elder cousins were in the US, they would fly back once in 2 years. Now, kids are flying back 3 times a year because they want to be home for 10 days. Back then, I think our kind of parents, so the grandparent generation right now, would just be like, suck it up, get yourself a part time job. But these days, the parents are like, sure, sweetie. Right? So I think these are hidden costs and they can be as much as, and obviously, I'm not talking about housing because you take that into account. Um, yeah, I would say these are the top sort of lists. If you want, I can prepare a document and share it with you guys. Happy to do that. We've got like a whole bunch of these resources.
Yeah, yeah, we can actually do videos out of those resources as well. Yeah. So, Ambika, many students overlook smaller cities with excellent public universities. What questions should counselors and students ask local alumni or university representatives to ensure that lower cost doesn't compromise academic rigor or professional pathways?
Okay, so I'd like to address this first contextually, and then I actually wrote down a few questions to share with you. So, number one, I would fight the narrative that low cost means not as good quality, which would technically imply that IIT Delhi and IIT Bombay aren't as rigorous as one of the private universities.
That's a very
Right?
interesting angle to draw. Yeah.
Yeah. And the Okay, to simplify it, you have to look at the parents' budget, what they can afford, and you have to look at what the student's capability can get into. And there's a Venn diagram. As you can tell, I'm a nerd. So there's a little Venn diagram, and that overlap will allow you to understand where the kids can go. And first, that's the context and within which I wanted to speak. Number two were your specific questions. I've actually written them down. So you must look for academic rigor. So, what is this faculty student ratio? How many of the faculty members that are going to be teaching you have industry experience? So in even non-research, so research means you should have done extensive research, so citations, academic output. And if you're going into something which is more tactical, so if you want to get into consulting, economics, marketing, etc., then how many of the industry faculty have actually worked makes a very big difference. I, for example, worked in finance and strategy for multiple years, ran a few businesses before I became a career counselor. And it changes the way I approach the entire conversation. It also is grounded in the fact that if you've lived in different countries, you have a cultural understanding of what is required. So that's number one. Number two, professional pathways. So where are the graduates at 2 to 5 years from now? How strong is the alumni network? Are there any industry partnerships? Are there any regional advantages? So just going back to, does the location offer you unique internship or co-op opportunities? If you want to work in marine biology, then studying obviously near the coast is going to give you a distinct advantage, and it could be a smaller, more affordable university. The other thing to look for is emerging industry clusters. So, if, for example, you're in Boston and you're interested in biotech, that is an emerging hub for VC funding, etc. So, if you want to be on the research side, or you want to be the investee side or the operations side, that's a fantastic place to be. You're going to mixers, you're going for evening outs, lectures, what are they called, networking events. So there are lots of opportunities these can get you. And the last, which is undervalued by most older Indians, is the support system. So, are there any career services? What is the mental health support? And are there any international student resources? I don't want this to get political, but recently we had a bunch of students sort of return to India. And the fact that we had strong, yeah, international student offices, I was able to pick up the phone, call my university representatives, quickly get to a point where the students were safely back home, and now we have a strategy to get them back on track now that the situation has resolved. This is without mentioning the country, obviously, but
Yeah, yeah.
there are a bunch of things, yeah, that one can look at, and I would walk away from the affordable and say, okay, the grass is greenest where you stand, Shashwati. I mean, in today's day and age, if this is where you're standing, what is it that you can get out of this opportunity is what I would recommend the students look for. Yeah.
Very interesting and very, very useful questions that you have raised. I'm sure it'll be very, very helpful for our viewers. Yeah. So Ambika, you are on the global board of TOEFL, right?
Yes. Since 2023, Shashwati.
Okay. Okay. So how do you view the evolution of English language testing over the years?
So I'd like to speak as Ambika, just an individual, and not the board member or the representative of a large not-for-profit schooling system. Um, it's been very exciting for any language, in particular English, over the last 3 4 years. We've seen, we're moving beyond traditional testing, Shashwati. We're moving towards authentic, real-world communication evaluation. um, if I look at what does that mean at a granular level, we've got technology integration. So accessibility has been revolutionized. Online testing is available. A while ago, we had to get to a center. We had students who were traveling from tier 4 and tier 3 cities into large cities just to take the exam. Today you can take it online. um, there's AI powered scoring. It is consistent, it is more objective, it allows you to neutralize some of the regional biases. But most importantly, what I like about the English language assessment, and it is not just the TOEFL exam, it could be IELTS, it could be Pearson, it could be DET, which is Duolingo, is that we look at all four components of communication. So there's listening, there's speaking, there's reading, and there's writing, which is a very comprehensive way of looking at anything. As you can tell, I enjoy doing things in a really sort of in-depth manner. In particular, I do want to mention, this is shout out to my TOEFL team in India. They developed a TOEFL India Scholars Program with the DPS Society, and we have trained over 200 counselors and teachers. We have helped a whole bunch of students get discounts and access English proficiency at a much more affordable price point. And for me, it's not just the test scores, right? It's about long-term student success. So for example, English proficiency is used even in Japan. You need it for your visa. So there are many nuances here. And there are a lot of exciting transformations I'm awaiting over the next 2 years. I think with the advent of generative chat, like ChatGPT, the generative AI, we're going to see the relevance of standardized testing come up again, because this will be student specific and it really can't be scammed at the moment.
Can
Yes.
you share one concrete example of a change that you have noticed in English language testing?
Mm, just the home edition. So COVID forced it upon us. So one was right. So earlier you had to go to a physical center, which had the typical eight, I don't know if you can remember the horseshoe system. Eight screens were there. People were standing. There was a proctor, and now you can take it on your laptop at home at your convenience at an hour where it is, easily accessible. So I find a lot of our students take the exam later in the night, so they're not disrupted, and they have unfettered internet access. So that is one really big change.
Right. So, Ambika, you advise 8 universities globally, right?
Yes.
From your vantage point, what are top institutions really looking for today in international applicants beyond just scores and grades?
That's a difficult question because a lot of the universities like to keep their admission academic index and the black box, a black box. So, over the last 8 years, I've been working with multiple universities on how to access the right student, right? There's something called the fit. And obviously, because of that, you have insights into how admission policies are shifting over time. The first thing for me is they always talk about grades and test scores. So you're a student, they're expecting you to be interested in studying. That's number one. The other thing I look at is authentic leadership and impact. So it's not just the titles, but it's evidence of either meaningful change that you've done or innovation. And they want to see how applicants have really identified problems and how they've created communities or solutions. Right? So that's number two. Number three, what I love is this whole global perspective with local roots concept, which means that, do you understand the cultural context? Are you engaging meaningfully? And it's not about traveling extensively or having access to, an expensive summer school. It's also about, do you demonstrate cultural intelligence of to where you live? So I'll give you an example. One of my students who went to a top 5 university in the world, his summers were spent in Bihar with his nani. He lives in Delhi, but his summers were spent with his grandmother. And he was like, what do I do for summer? And we came up with a bunch of things that he could do. And he eventually ended up building a model that could predict um, flooding and anticipating that 3 days in advance. He built another one who went to his grandparents. He worked with a university professor and built electrical load shedding, things that not a lot of us know in Delhi, but these are things that plague most cities, unfortunately, in India. So when you look at how somebody can apply to an Ivy League or a top 5 university in the world, an MIT or a Stanford, which is where these kids are, and still show their local roots, I think that has worked very well. They're also looking for intellectual curiosity. So, are you genuinely interested in learning? Are you self directed? Are you adaptable? I know it's a lot, and we do expect a lot, Shashwati, from our students today. The last thing for me, sorry, I'm going to take a more second. As you can tell, teachers got so much to say. The last bit I would say is, can you handle ambiguity? So when things change, does it throw you off, or are you able to adapt? Are you able to be resilient? And it's an overused word, but it is really critical.
Ambika, where do you see India's policy on outbound education headed? Could we see structural reforms in how Indian schools or boards prepare students for global education?
I'll take that in two parts.
Yeah, sure.
I'll answer the second one first. Yes, I think with NEP 2020's emphasis on institutionalizing standardized frameworks in internationalizing of education, we will see policy reforms. I think it'll become less ad hoc, it'll be more systematic, and I'm expecting standardized frameworks and better financial support mechanisms in the next 2 years. I mean, that's my personal expectation. To your first question, um, there are certain tectonic shifts that you have observed, and you will see the impact over the next 3 years. One is credit recognition, right? So, a more flexible credit transfer mechanism has been put in place. We're working with the CBSE in particular, is working with universities for credit recognition. Second is skill based curriculum. Again, oft used, overused words, but we're seeing the difference in school now. So, how do you get global competencies, critical thinking, cross cultural communication in? And the last and very effective is public and private partnerships. You're seeing that happen in the country. So, I'm excited about that.
Okay. So that brings me to my last question of this very meaningful conversation. So, with a growing conversation around ethical AI, sustainability, and climate action, how can Indian students align their college applications and subject choices to these future forward global priorities?
You've picked a big one. It's a really big one. Sustainability and AI. And let's just throw design in, and we've got pretty much the whole
Yeah,
world
yeah, the
covered.
whole world of it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. AI, sustainability, climate action, design thinking, all of it together in one umbrella.
So I think I'll make it simple. Interdisciplinary is important,
Yes.
right? So a computer coder, if they don't have a philosophical sociology ethics background, they're going to create for harm and not for good. So that's, things like this are conversations that educators are having all the time. I have a lot of friends who are principals. I have a lot of friends who are counselors or school owners, and these are conversations we often have. However, most of our schooling system still looks at things in streams. So we still look at it as STEM, humanities, and commerce. So, to your question, think about design thinking, think about systems thinking, right? For STEM students, you can frame your research around climate technology, ethical AI development. What does it mean at your level? It has to be grade appropriate. Nobody's asking you to develop something that a PhD or somebody who's been doing this for 30 years is creating, right? But if you show an understanding of the impact of science and technology on society, that is good. It's not just about technical mastery, because technical mastery doesn't take you anywhere on its own, doesn't take you anywhere. For the business students, sustainable business models, because it's not just profit maximization narratives which are compelling. Future forward companies are doing very well. You can see that in sustainable clothing brands and skincare brands and investment brands, etc. But I think eventually, to me, Shashwati, the key is authenticity, right? You're not adopting these as buzzwords. They demonstrate a genuine interest. I'll give you an example. Gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. This is one of those, thermoses that you get at those university fairs. I carry them with me. I don't use plastic. If I unfortunately have used plastic, then I ensure that I use it again and again till I use it up. So there are many things they can do. The future is bright. No matter how dark it feels on some days, there are so many wonderful opportunities, so many wonderful technologies that are available to our kids. And our kids are bright and they are focused, and there is so much hope. So I actually want to sort of end this question with the answer that being interdisciplinary and being human being focused will really help us get to the place where we want our kids to be in, like, to create the world that we want to be in.
Ambika, thanks a lot for your insightful observations and also the pieces of information that you have shared with us today. It was a very animated conversation, and I'm very happy that it went the way it went.